right? We'll leave that aside for now. And it might be fruitful to discuss the communication style, right? Because there's just it just takes so long to decipher you. I mean, I've managed to decipher you kind of in parts, but it takes a while. So I'm getting there.
You will get there. And if you ask me, it would be much more fun.
One more thing, right? One more thing is that if you weren't saying what Declan was saying, then if that's an if, then at best what you're saying is you guys don't understand me because you have some sort of let's say inability to understand me.
That's right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
At the minimum, you would be saying that, right? Now, the interesting. Well, yeah. See, I'm getting there. Declan, you probably kind of right. So the minimum of that is to ask, why would you think that? Right? That's the interesting one. Why would you think that rather than it's your communication style or it's your actual content, as far as you can determine it from the communication?
Well, I acknowledge that for once, communication is very important. But the problem is the following, Paul, that people work under false assumptions when it comes to them interacting with the world in a communicating style, right? I can demonstrate
Can I
this.
stop
This
you
principle.
there? See, just hang on.
Sure.
This is an example just for you. I asked you more or less a direct question, and you're giving me a kind of a lecture on generally how people communicate.
No. I'm not. I want to dimension and present the problem that you guys are not.
Right? Is it because you can't answer the question without all that background?
Yeah. Okay. You agree. I agree.
Saying, I don't know. I'm asking. Is that what the issue?
Yeah. The issue is the following. The issue is that I am one of the few people around that actually thinks for you. I am aware of. Listen. What I'm saying. Mean? Listen. I am aware, Paulette, of the words that come out of my mouth, how you're going to interpret them, based on the understanding level that you have.
What?
I happen to have that fucking ability. So let's say, for instance, in order for me to prevent a miscommunication from happening, I'm going to have to teach you a lesson as to why and how we work under false assumptions when engaging in reality. Even you guys.
See what I'm saying, Polaterality?
And I can put some example to the test, Paulette, that will corroborate my claim. Now, people say, I understood, everyone understood. In this room, if you were to speak, Paulette, everyone in here would understand something different. Now, there's a reason why. People are able, the process of people understanding is going to be dependent on their experience, their knowledge, their set of assumptions.
These are all very obvious things.
Good. Now. We
already know that. Do you know?
Yeah, this is the problem. But are you aware of that when you're speaking? Do you know the entailments of that piece of knowledge? Because if you do, listen. If you do, Paulette, no. This is the bald example all over again. Yes, it is very clear. What I'm saying is a truism. The problem is that the entailments of that fucking knowledge, it doesn't fucking enter into your conception of what you're saying right now. You don't know how that piece of the puzzle plays out in this particular conversation.
Can I tell you something, Tiz?
Sure, go ahead.
If you tell us all these obvious things, right?
Sure.
I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to say, from your point of view, you're saying, look, I'm going to tell you these obvious things because you even if you
need to be aware of them.
Yeah, I know. No. Yeah, I'm literally.
Are you aware of it? Do you know them?
Just a minute, Tasteless. You're saying even if you know them, you're not active.
Aware of them.
These are not active in your mind, and so you're unaware or you're unaware of the entailments, as you call them, consequences. We'll leave that black box, right?
Yeah.
Here's the problem if you do that. The problem you do that is you now have a trade-off, right? The trade-off is if you say all those things, you, according to your perspective, might increase the chance of us understanding you.
Of course.
That's the benefit.
Yeah, sure.
The cost is you frustrate the fucking hell out of us. So wouldn't it be better if you just said what the entailments are at the end, and then you can work backwards to see if the things we're supposed to grant as obvious are acted in our minds? It would save you a lot of hassle. It would save you a lot of hostility.
Wind and a lot of wind.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try to sum my point out. According to my site, it would be much more efficient. One, did you guys realize that your foundations, the things you take for granted about this concept, you know it, and being fully aware and having a proper perspective on this, the entailment of this knowledge. Look,
you are literally
that would make it so fucking easy for me to now fully get you guys to understand the full picture. But since you trust so much your foundations, which are ill-formed, that if I were to ask you, Polat, to tell me what I'm about to say, I bet you couldn't do it when it comes to communication and the fucking entailment. But if I bring it up, they say, "Oh yeah, but that is so fucking easy. That is so fucking true." Yeah, I understand that it's true, motherfucker.
I don't think you understood.
But it is so basic that it needs to be in your foundation when you are speaking about this issue. Now you're saying, Tasteless, what do you think it's more likely, dude? Do you think that your style of communication is problematic? Yes, it is problematic to some people. It is problematic in the same way that you're problematic.
You succeeded in doing this in this room in your style? Who have you succeeded with? Who have you succeeded in going through all these foundations to go through it from A to B?
People who I don't need to do that.
So there are people. One person.
Listen.
What about everybody
there
else?
Are people. Listen, friend. There are people who actually have a good fucking foundation, and when I speak to them,
but I'm talking about
I don't need to do all this fucking thing.
How many people have you succeeded this with?
Several people, dude.
Such as, apart from
Helena.
Who else?
Helena, I think it was Godlish. I think he's a good, he has a good grasp. Yeah.
So if we ask him,
yeah,
right, is Tasteless? Do you understand what Tasteless says?
Oh no! I'm saying I have had conversations with him, and I don't have that problem. Now the problem of communication, the problem of not understanding a perspective or misunderstanding what is being said.
So if we ask him, did that problem occur in a conversation? If we ask him, he's going to say no. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that.
Listen. Then what are you saying then? You just said you didn't have a problem with God.
What I'm saying, Paula, is that usually, usually, man, I am trying to make memory, right? Like have a recollection of the people that I've actually have no problem, communicating with. But then again, my memory when it comes to these issues is very bad. The only thing the only one I can remember is Helena. That's one person, and I usually don't have that problem with people. Let's say with a good ability to understand, like with a solid foundation of these concepts. And listen,
you said we all have this foundation. It's just that we're not aware of it and we're not realizing the entailments.
No, you're strawmanning that. You're strawman.
Well, then what on earth are you talking about?
I am saying the following.
I have no clue what you're saying.
Listen, if I were to ask you about these foundations, you would exhibit a poor, not good understanding about these issues. And then if I were to present them to you, you would say, "Oh yeah, but that is so fucking easy. That's so fucking true. That's so fucking trivial." That's the problem, dude. Now, what I was trying to let me clarify. No, Paula, please. Let me end up with
I'm clarifying what you're saying. Right?
Let me finish with
what you're saying. Let's see if we agree on what you're saying.
Paula, let me fucking finish.
So you're saying that we don't necessarily have the foundation, but if you told us, we would say yes, that's obvious.
No, I am saying that we need to go right to the fundamentals. I am saying that you guys listen.
Right.
You
When we
guys
go there, what happens?
assume your foundation, right? You guys assume that you have a good foundation, that you understand it really well, that you have a good grasp on this shit because it is so simple. But then again, my proposition is you are not aware of the entailments of those foundations. You don't fully
Give
understand
an
and know
example.
how. Yeah, sure. So this thing about communication, right? Many
Uh-huh.
people have their own hypotheses when it comes to this issue. You think, for instance, Declan, that if people say, "Oh yeah, yeah, no, Declan is correct," that they actually understood what you were saying.
The fuck are you talking about? No, I don't.
Okay, Declan, now, okay, I don't want to strong man you, right? Maybe you can tell me, what do you think? Do you think people that people understand what you're saying, Declan?
Well, that's a very big question, right? I think some people do, right? I think one of my skills, right? Like I'm terrible at some things. I'm horrible at math, right? I'm horrible at philosophical positions. But one of the things that I feel comfortable doing is articulating positions.
Nice.
So I think unless I'm using language that is considered to be like high tier, right? Like words that people don't understand. I think yes, generally people understand what I'm saying.
If people agree with you, Declan, that they understood what you're
That doesn't follow. No.
okay. If
No.
you're having a conversation with a person, that person say, "Okay, no, no, yeah, I think you're correct." Do you think that person?
No, that wouldn't follow. I
Do you
don't
think
think
that you?
I don't hold on. I don't
Mhm.
think that just because someone says they understand me, that means that they understand me. That wouldn't follow. That would be an
Okay, but you're suggesting that if you are not using terminology or tough, unfamiliar issues, the most likely thing is that people really understand what you're saying. You communicate with people fully.
well. That's just trivially true, right?
No, no,
Yeah,
no. Is it the
hold on,
case?
hold on. I think generally what I said was, unless I'm using some sort of language that's uncommon, right, or high tiered, yes, one of my skills that I feel comfortable in is properly articulating a position.
That is not what I asked. You said, "Hey, man, do you think that you communicated with people?" You say, I articulated well my position." You articulating well your position doesn't entail communication. So I don't know
Well,
that
the
you'd be
idea
answering that.
the idea of properly what it means to properly articulate
Uh
a
huh.
proposition or a concept
Uh
is that
huh.
it's easier for people to understand it. So an
It's
entailment of that would be
easier for people to
so
understand.
so an entailment of that, tasteless, would be that generally if you the better that you can articulate a position to people of different intelligence groups, for example, or there are even people who can do
False.
different
That is
languages, right?
false. That is
I haven't
false.
even finished what the entailment was.
I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
What am
Let me
I
tell
wrong
you
about? I
why.
haven't even finished.
Okay, when you're saying
No,
articulating a position,
I haven't finished my
that
statement.
is not the trait that
You
allows
can you
communication to
can
happen. It
you
is
can
not
go you can
good
go ahead after I'm
articulation,
done. You can go ahead
my
after I'm
friend. It is
done
not
with
good
my.
articulation
You can
that
go ahead.
assures communication.
You can go ahead after I'm done with my position, right? So all I'm saying is that on par, generally, yes, I think that people understand me. Now, it's not entailed that just because I articulate it well that someone's going to understand me, but what it means to properly articulate, generally over different groups, means that it's more likely that they will understand me.
False. Now listen, you're articulating a position. You having an articulated position, right? It doesn't necessarily assure communication.
It's not what I
Now,
said.
it
He
is
didn't
not in
say
virtue of the
necessarily.
articulation. Hey, it is not in virtue of the articulation. It is in virtue of you using familiar ideas that people
That's
already
part of what
possess.
articulation is.
No, that is false. Articulation
That's
just
not
means
false.
you can articulate an idea very elegantly, eloquently, or whatever, or maybe many, or maybe long in a long format or
He said
whatever,
over different
not being
groups.
clear, even though your ideas are perfectly articulated. An articulation of
You
ideas,
weren't
right?
listening.
Yes,
You just didn't listen to anything
an
I said.
articulation of ideas doesn't entail, right, that it is going to
I
be.
didn't say that.
You're saying that it is more
He
likely for people
said,
to
no,
understand, right?
if he can articulate the same ideas to different groups, it doesn't mean he's going to use exactly the same words. And if he can do that and they all say they understand it, then that means that the probability that he can articulate is and for people to understand goes up.
Okay. Now listen,
I don't know why
Declan.
you would disagree with that. That's like
Okay, nice.
true.
So let me ask you something, Declan. You
Why
speak
would
the
anyone
language.
disagree with that?
I know.
Okay, let me go further then. Declan, do you understand? I mean, you're a native speaker, right? Do you think that, like, okay, you told me that you feel that you are good at articulating your ideas, right?
I feel
So, and that
comfortable.
makes it more likely for people to understand you. That's first of all. But my question is, do you think that you're communicating with people?
Do I think I'm communicating with people?
Yeah,
What do you think my answer to that will be, Tate?
I don't know. I want to know.
You asked me the question, do I think I'm communicating to people, and you don't know
Yeah.
my answer to that question?
No. You said that people would understood you. But do you think that you're communicating with those people?
Do I think I'm communicating with people
Yeah.
who understand?
The only way this makes sense is if you've got.
This is the problem. You see, you guys think that you have like a good grasp on these issues. Now you're exhibiting that you don't.
Listen to me, just
But
one
I'm gonna get there. No.
Short.
Paula, please let me fucking
Literally
finish.
one sentence. The only way what you said, that question makes sense, is if you have a meaning for communicate that is well outside.
Exactly.
Of course. This is what I'm talking. Okay, so Declan, so you would be saying, yes or no? Just
As far as my definition of communicating, obviously,
what
my
is
answer
your
going to be
definition and
tasteless.
understanding of communication?
Tasteless. Obviously, and the common usage and my definition of communication to the question, which was Declan, do you think you're communicating with people? Obviously, my answer is going to be yes.
Okay, your answer is going to be yes. Now, Declan, I don't know why you were so hesitant of answering this question. Now, Declan, let me ask you something.
I was just ridiculous.
Oh, it was ridiculous, huh? Okay, go ahead. Declan, what is communication?
I think communication is an exchange of information from one source to another, in which typically it's received.
And what?
Communication is an exchange of information from one source to another, when typically it's
It's under what?
understood.
Okay. It's understood. Okay. Now, Declan, the process is, communication is achieved once you made sure that your message was received as intended, right? As it was sent, right? So communication is the process of making ideas common. Now, common mean that, if the message you're trying to convey, let's say it's a red ball, right? It's a red sphere, if you will, right? And if the person who received the message, right, they say, oh, it's a red circle, communication was not achieved. Do you agree?
Yeah. Paul, do you remember what I said about the
Great. If they say, Declan,
the truisms?
Yeah, I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
Here are the truisms, but you wouldn't. You
I know where this is
were
going.
using the fucking. You were using this fucking term, and you say assuming that communication was achieved, right? You said that. You said, yeah, I communicated. I mean, people understood, but you didn't provide any fucking mechanism as to why that is the case. You were basing the assumption of communication based on your articulation of ideas. That's first of all. Second of all, Declan, if you don't know, and this is my claim, right? You guys are assuming that just because my communication style, right, is different, people are less likely to understand what I'm saying as a result of my communication skills. That's a given, of course. The way the message is presented, that's going to affect the likelihood of the idea being common. What it was, was initially intended. But I can assure you, Declan, that if you present a point, if you're trying to explain anything, Declan, and we were to make a fucking poll, and say, well, what do you understand about what Declan said? People here would have different fucking accounts for what you said.
I never denied
Some people are going to be closer to what you said, right?
I never denied
and
that.
many people are going to be fucking, lost in fucking space, right? Now, if you are aware of this fact, if you are aware of this
Which
fucking,
we all are, yeah.
this is just like you said, a common fucking thing. Now,
Exactly.
you made it sound as if you were under the assumption that people understood what you said because you were very articulated, right? But now you can see that that is not necessarily the case. In the vast majority of the cases, it is not going to be likely for you to have been communicated by, solely. Now, why is that? Give me the explanation, Declan, as to why that happens. Go ahead.
He's got you here, Declan. I mean, he's...
Oh, I know. Right?
Go ahead, Declan. Why that happens?
Yeah, I'm getting to it. So basically, there's a couple things. Number one, what I said was generally people will understand what I'm saying. Never once said made a deductive claim like everyone.
You said that you would communicate with people. Oh, you didn't. You said, that was so stupid. Yes. No. The answer is obvious. No, yes. I communicated. No. Yes. No. You said that, you stupid idiot. Oh, didn't he?
No, well, let me. So
perhaps I didn't understood what you said. What did Declan say when I asked him if he communicated?
What I was saying, right? That's also possible as well.
Go right to the source.
Oh. Okay, so go ahead, Declan. Continue to make it.
Hold on a second. Wait for me to stop. Okay, so what I said was that generally, when I articulate something, I get the point across and people understand it. Never once said or made a deductive claim that all of them would. Right? You asked me for the definition of communication, and I gave you. So the idea would be that in the case in which the person understood what I said, we both communicated. That's just trivially true once again.
No, you said that you were communicating because your ideas were articulated, and that you communicated once you fucking... That's exactly what you said. Now you're pushing it in light of the new information that you know. Oh shit! Yeah, communication is just when I control, the message and make sure that the message was, complete.
No. You asked me. The way the conversation went down was.
Declan, you don't have to fucking.
Hold on a second.
You don't have
to interrupt.
Sure.
That's fine.
Wiggle yourself out of this.
That's fine. Yeah. So what I said was that generally, because I feel comfortable articulating positions, that generally people will understand me, right? As long as I'm using language that is not high-tiered or phrases that people don't understand. At which point,
but then you accepted that if we were to make a poll, you would see that many people understood something different than what you.
If you keep interrupting like this, I'm just going to have to use priority.
No.
I don't want to do that. Okay.
Go ahead, but I had to interrupt you to let you know to remember you. That you acknowledged that if we were to make a poll, people would understand different things about what you said. Yes,
I understand.
Did you or did you not accept it?
I'm recounting the conversation, and every time you interrupt me, I'll have to go back and forth and do the same thing over. And I know you don't want to do that. People in here don't want to hear that. So basically, what happened was I said that I feel comfortable articulating positions, and generally, when I do that, I feel like people generally understand what I say, as long as I'm not using language that's sort of high-tiered and uncommon. At which point you responded to ask me if I communicate to people. And I said, sure, I communicate to people. I didn't say I communicated to all people, right? The entailment there is that I didn't say that all people understand me, or I feel that all people. You asked me if I feel like I communicate to people. Of course I feel like I communicate to people. There's no entailment in that says that I communicate to all people or that all people understand me, right? So after I gave the definition of what I thought that was when you went on this diatribe about how, basically Declan says that he communicates to all people, therefore that means he communicates to all people, which was definitely not what I said whatsoever. I mean, the problem, I halfway wonder if this is a language barrier. And then half of me wonders if you don't think about like what words mean and the entailments of those words, as you said that you were so aptly able to pick up on, which is ridiculous, because the only way that you would make that argument, the argument which you so foolishly failed at making, was if you thought the entailment of me saying that I communicated people meant that I communicate to all people, which is just ridiculous, right? Like no one in their right mind in this room, if they are worth a bag of beans in here, would make the claim that they think that every single point in every single instance, 100% of the time, that people understand exactly what they're saying. I never made that claim. Nothing I said was even close to that claim. Even the most narcissistic people in here, including Shamos, right, would not make a claim like that. They wouldn't be stupid enough to do something like that. Justin.
Okay, so we can
Justin,
compare that.
I'm not done yet. Justin, for example.
Oh, you're taking too long, dude.
Well, that's fine. I listen to you talk for like 5 or 10 minutes.
You're taking too
even
long.
Justin, even Justin, for example, right? He's like one of the most narcissistic people in here. I guarantee you, if you brought him in here, he wouldn't tell you that he thinks that 100% of the people understand what he's saying. You know why? It's because for those narcissistic people and those people who are actually decently smart.
You never told me why is a reason.
I'm getting ready to finish here. I was going.
That was the only question I made you, and you're going on a long ass.
One of the reasons,
okay,
here we go. This is better. I really didn't want to use priority speaker, but you just have this habit of over talking. So one of the reasons why they wouldn't want to do that, Tasteless, is because for those people who are narcissistic, right? Like for them to say that they communicated something, a high-tiered concept that other people don't understand, they view that as a virtue, right? I don't view that as a virtue, right? And I don't think I'm perfect at communication, and I never said that I was.
Are you going to answer my question? Because I was waiting patiently for you to make your case, and you never answered my question. So are you going to answer? I asked you what was the reason. Declan, could you tell me the reason why people understand different things once you're talking, even if you're very articulate about it? Can you explain to me?
Yeah, alongside with anyone's skills with articulation, it's going to vary depending on culture, and it's going to vary depending on intellect, and it's going to vary depending on their ability to understand language. It's multifaceted, right? So it's not going to be the same for everyone. So, for example, I can give you a great example of this, right? Like, Polaterality has this vocabulary quiver that is very difficult sometimes for me to follow, just because he's been acquainted with words that I've not been acquainted with, and it makes it hard sometimes for me to understand exactly what he's saying. But that doesn't mean that he can't articulate it properly. It's just means.
Of course. Now let me ask you something like that. In the case of the person, let's say you're saying something that that is you're well articulated, and you're not using unfamiliar terms. Do you think, Declan, that if you do this, and if you were to poll people and ask them what you said and your explanation, what they understood, do you think that the majority would know or maybe have exactly the idea that you were supposed to be conveying, or do you think that their interpretation is going to vary?
Well, I think that there's two questions in there, right? One of them would be, do I think that people would accurately check the box to the correct proposition, right? As in, be honest. That I don't. But if you're asking me if I think, I mean, you already asked me this, but if you're asking if I think that generally people understand me, the answer is yes.
Okay, so the idea is, I'm sorry, the the answer to that is no. Now, it is not, listen. It is not that they don't understand. No. Yeah, the answer is that no. Listen, I don't know what you mean by understanding. Listen, I don't know what you mean by understanding, right? Maybe you have like some understanding that I don't share, but maybe you can clarify. What do you mean whenever you say understand?
Properly able to process a form of information with regard to communication in which they could, I guess one aspect of it would be that they could retort back what I said in their language. That would be one indication.
Okay, so making sense out of what you said is understanding.
That's one of the things, definitely.
Because you said a lot of shit and you didn't say really anything. But you're saying if they make sense out of what I said, then they are understood?
I think that's one indication, yeah.
You think that is one indication. Is there another indication?
Yeah, it might be them able to actually put the concept into practice. That might be one thing as well. I don't know. I have to think about it.
Okay.
Listen, here's how it works, right? You've got sender, you've got receiver, and you've got encoding and decoding. It's a constant interactive process.
Oh, you don't need to tell me. Tell that.
Now, wait. No, I'm telling you because you need to understand the foundation.
Well,
See,
are
if you
you
don't have
going
a
to?
correct foundation,
You
you have
stopped
to
me when I
understand the
was trying to
foundation.
lecture
But,
your
but
ass
no.
about it.
Let me
You
tell you. Let me
prevented
ask
me
you
to
a
do
question.
so, and now you're
Let
trying
me
to
ask
act
you
as
a
if I don't
question.
know. Fuck you, Polat. I don't need this fucking lecture. You tell that to.
You give us lectures all the time.
But I don't need your fucking lecture on this issue. I know about communication more than you do, and I would
Give you
appreciate
something
if
that you
you
might not know.
motherfucker apply what you know into your communication style, since you are a native speaker
I
language.
was going to give you something you
Yes.
might not know. Have
Oh,
you
go
heard?
ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So in maths, there's this concept of the homomorphism. Do you know what that is?
Homomorphism? Yeah, it's
Yeah.
when you turn gay.
No, that's not what it is.
Oh, well.
That's the funniest fucking shit. I was expecting that to say.
I knew it's like an Ali G answer. You know, I got nothing against them, but I ain't no batty boy, man. Right?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Never
Explain to me,
that.
man. Explain to me the concept. I'm not familiar with that concept.
I'm reluctant to do so, but I will explain its application in the context of communication. You don't, in fact, actually know for sure if somebody understands you. All you can do is to keep doing loops, put out stuff, so that, you know, at the level that you can perceive, right, there's no detectable difference. This involves, you know, when we talk about them, do we agree, right? If I say I have a car, and then you go, oh, you got a car, and you go, what color is it? And the other guy goes, what do you mean? Cars don't have a color. So there's a problem, right? There's the output doesn't agree with the exchange, right?
Of
And
course.
similarly, if you said, you got a car, and he goes, I'll show you my car, and then he points to a pair of slippers. Error, right? Mismatch, right? So this is how we do it, right? So we never know for sure, but we increase the chance and we narrow it down by, you know,
No, we
pointing.
can know.
Listen to me.
We can know. You're not talking about a
we can know,
programming
but
issue.
not with certainty. That's what
Well,
I'm trying
yeah,
to say.
if you
Just
ask the
listen to me.
person, and
Just
if that
listen to
person
me.
is
Let me
able
finish.
to,
Let me finish.
holy shit.
So when Declan, so this is the thing, right? When Declan is talking, like he says you asked him, are you communicating, right? There's an error at first there, because there's a difference between saying there's one sense is he's intending to communicate, right? Obviously he's intending to communicate. The other is saying, does he think that some of his message is getting through according to what he's seeing in terms of receiving feedback? And the answer is yes. But what you're making it out to be is that he's intending to communicate and or everything is getting through, which is not what he ever said. Do you understand?
Oh, no. I exactly know that when he, answered that question, he wasn't fully aware, or he wasn't aware of the communication sense of the word, that what it means, right? He was just using communication, in a way of, oh yeah, when I speak, I communicate, and if I am able to, get through some ideas, then I communicate it. But that is exactly the issue, right? The issue here, my friend, is that Declan, I am aware, my friend, of this many barriers that they are in place. The result of, as a result of language barriers. That's fine. That's one. Emotional barriers. That's second of all. Ego in the middle, of course. You know, understanding and previous understanding, Declan, of course. Now, you mistakenly, Declan, asserted that I was suggesting that I was more intelligent when I never used that fucking word.
No,
that
I
was
asked you.
one thing. Listen. That is one intelligence that you see based on your.
No, I
listen.
asked you.
Shh,
I didn't
no,
make any
I never.
proposition.
No. You did. You said that was what I was saying.
Didn't.
You did, and I told you
No.
I have never said such a thing. And you said, well, it had to be. No,
You don't even
it
have
doesn't.
the ability to track the conversation, Dave.
I never
I
seen
am sorry,
anything
man.
like this.
We can have the fucking record, for you to remember exactly what you said, Declan. Okay? You were saying that I was suggesting that I was smarter, because I was telling you that I was going to, quote unquote, make you see the light, which I didn't said that, but that's the way you understood it. And this is a problem, you see. Here we have an example of a person interpreting messages that are being spouted, right? You interpret those messages, right, They go through your ego. They go through your goals. They go through your emotions. They go through your expectations. They go through your false assumptions. And then after that, you interpret my words and make sense out of them in the way that you feel is better. Now, this process, my friend, is so fucking flawed, right? And you assume that since it's what you understood, right, based on what I was saying, the time, whatever, all the cues, little cues there, that I must necessarily be saying that. Now, I for once I am aware of all the barriers and difficulties of communication. I am aware of your current set of assumptions. I am aware of your the way you understand certain concepts, right? In the way you don't okay, the way you're not aware of other, let's say, subtleties, right, of these concepts that are so fucking necessary for us to have the full picture and the high resolution idea of what is being said. Now, like I said, Declan, in the beginning,
You about done?
I am done. Listen, like I said in the beginning, Declan, me saying, "Hey, man, you think the way I perceive you, am I being correct? But the way I perceive you is that
I am done. Let me continue to talk now.
Yeah, I'm gonna close it up. The way I perceive you, Declan, is that you are in a crystal house. You're not aware of it. And what I'm trying to do, and if you're confident, if you're confident, Declan, about your positions, about the way you fucking think, your models, the models you're using, your set of assumptions and whatnot, then you would let me explore your position, no problem. If you're feeling confident about that, yeah, man, you might even convince me that you're in the right position. But I would like to do it, Declan, and if you're open to it, I will be more than glad to do it in goodwill. In goodwill, right? I would like to see.
That's what we were doing.
Oh no, we're not doing that at all. No, that was just an exhibition. No. I'm talking about the deep shit. I'm talking about what you think you know, right? All these things that you claim that you fucking understand, all the positions that you have understand through the world, all your knowledge that the knowledge that you feel more firmly about, that you have more dominance or more understanding, if you will. If that is the case, man, you will let me fucking explore it.
You about done? Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't make some claim that I'm some huge knowledgeable guy in here, right? I don't even think that I'm at the top of like the totem pole. I just think that I have enough knowledge in here to survive. So that's number one. Number two, if it was the case that I thought that I was at the top of the totem pole, I sure as fuck wouldn't use it as dominance, right?
I never said that.
If you pay attention to the way that I interact with people, I usually only go down that route if it's someone else that is trying to shit all over the room. I find, for example, that sort of behavior that Shamos exhibits to be extremely sickening. Like it makes me sick to my stomach to hear that sort of shit. So I think this goes back to you not being able to understand the dynamics of the room. I think you think that this room, like the main players in here, like me or Jovan or Layla or Tom or whoever, is under the assumption that we think we are better in virtue of the fact that maybe we can reason a little better than most people, right? And I could tell you that, at least from my perception, that couldn't be farther from the case. I think that a lot of the main players in the room just enjoy the fact that we can talk to people, right, who may not be on the same wavelength in real life. I can't go down the street and ask Bob what he thinks about transcendent idealism, right? But I could sure as fuck ask Jovan, and I could sure as fuck ask Tom, and we could sure as fuck have a conversation about it. So this room dynamic between like the main players, it's really, I know it sounds like it, but it's really not about a dominance hierarchy. It's not about that. From my perception, it's about just being able to finally relate to people, which are rare in real life. So I think if you got that out of your head, you would do a lot better in here. And I think that you wouldn't be under a lot of the misconceptions that you are.
Well, again, you misunderstood my position. That is becoming not a like a regular occurrence with you, and I don't know if it's the result of you being unable, right, and you having so much fucking assumptions
Could be.
about what I'm saying, right, that you don't get the fucking message. So I had to type it out for you, in order for you to see exactly
Maybe
what
you're
I'm saying.
bad at communication. You
Maybe,
think
maybe.
that's
Of course, that is one possibility, and the other possibility is you being one unwilling, two unable, right, to understand, or you have like maybe Declan, it could be the case that you're feeling a little bit of fear and insecurity about your own positions. Listen, about your own positions, right? That you're not confident enough to say, yeah, man, let's fucking explore my positions, right? I mean, I'm sure that I'm correct.
No. I told you I was up for it. I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Okay.
If you want to go into, if you want to go into like a, I mean, this I take this as
But in
being like
goodwill, right?
this. I think this is you being like George W. Bush in the fucking town hall meeting where you're rolling your sleeves up, getting down to the nitty gritty. Right? I mean, if that's what you want to do, if that's what you want to do. We can do it.
Okay, Declan. This is what I want to propose, because you see, guys, listen. I've tried it like from several angles, right? The first thing that I did when I came here was, okay, I am going to present my position, right? You guys were just not presenting your positions and asking me about my position. So I said, yeah, man, I'm going to prove myself correct, right? Then I realized, well, dude, these guys, they think they're correct, and all they do is attack your position, right? Okay, um, okay, that is not going to work, because even if you can prove me wrong, right, that doesn't mean you're right, right? So I said, okay, fuck
Prove
it.
you wrong about what?
Yeah, if I say something about my position, say, oh, that's wrong. That's wrong.
No, I just mean like, are you talking about a specific position?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm talking about a year from now. Now, if I say
What
something, I
is
say,
that
well,
position then, Tasteless? That's what
this
I'm
is
getting at.
irrelevant. No, this is irrelevant. This is going to sidetrack the conversation, but it is irrelevant. What I'm saying is, I tried to do that, right? And I said, okay, this is what I think is correct, right? I am willing to present my case and to actually prove myself correct. Now, this didn't work, right? Because you said, no, you're wrong. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. I wasn't able to prove myself correct. Now, you proving myself wrong, let's say, doesn't make you right, doesn't prove yourself correct. So,
Unless
I guess
the positions are a true dichotomy.
yeah, whatever. So the only solution that I can see, right, that I wasn't really interested in doing that, but I guess that this is the only possibility, or the only remaining, let's say, chance for you to make you guys see. So the only thing that will allow me, right, to make you see my perspective is first, making you see how the things that are wrong with your positions, right? This is
What
one.
positions?
Well, some positions. I know.
Well, I don't. I mean,
I'm gonna
you
lead
know
you.
I'm wrong about.
I'm
what
gonna
is it
lead
that
you.
what
Relax,
is it that
relax.
you know I'm
Listen,
wrong
listen. And it is going to be in goodwill. It is not going to be a bad fated conversation. It's not that I'm going to prove you wrong in front of everyone. No. I am going to make you see by yourself, right?
Okay, well, let's before
If
we
you're
get into
incorrect.
this,
If you're incorrect.
before we get into this, I want to set some rules of logistics. Okay, if we're gonna do this, Tasteless, I want you to know if you keep over talking me, I hate having to use priority speaker, but I will. Okay.
Sure.
So I don't want to. I don't want. That's number one. Okay. Number two, I know you have an inability to be able to be short-winded, but if your shit goes on for like fucking 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to ask you to wrap it up because I don't want to listen to 5 or 10 minutes of your lectures. Okay.
That is not going to happen, Declan. I mean,
Okay.
I am not going to do that. Listen, relax. Listen, Declan, this is how it's going to be, okay, you think that your positions and your understanding about the things you know are correct, yes? Now, I am not going to criticize you, Declan. I am not going to say, oh, you're wrong about this. No. We're going to explore your positions, right? I am willing to explore your positions. This is going to be in goodwill, Declan. This is not going to be like a trickery or shit. No. This all is going to be in goodwill, and maybe I will be able that you're correct, perhaps, right? If after you let me
Okay.
explore your position, right?
All right, we'll get to it. Go ahead.
No, but it's not going to be now. Let me tell you why.
What?
Listen, Declan.
What? Holy fuck!
Okay. Let me tell you why. Because
All
right
that
now,
shit.
Declan, relax, my friend. Because I want really, for this to be constructive, and your ego is in the way right now. So I know that this timing is not going to be like the best timing to do that, but eventually we will do that, and it's not
It's all
going
your
to be.
fault, Declan.
Yeah, what the
It is
fuck?
not going to
You went
listen,
through all
Declan.
this shit.
It's your fault.
That's fine. I'm sure
You
you're
went through all
relieved.
this shit. Like, we were just, okay, let's do this. We're going to do it. And he goes, okay, well, rule number 1, we're not going to do it right now.
Yeah, well,
Jesus
listen.
Christ.
What I'm saying, Declan, this isn't about a fucking ego. This is not about being correct or incorrect. This is about you assessing your own positions and your own understanding about where you're standing right now, and actually assess it in the correct way. And I'm sure that you have what it takes to explain to me what your position is, and to make you see. I mean, you will see that you're correct in the end, or that you're wrong, right? This is not going to be me talking, Declan. This is going to be you explaining. Okay, so that's it.
I doubt
Eventually
that.
we will do it. Okay, eventually we will do it. That's it.
I thought you wanted to do it right now, Tasteless.
That is incorrect. You assumed that.
I did, because you said, earlier you said, Declan, I think you didn't respond because what you're feeling is fear. Fear because you thought I was going to get into this. And I said, okay, let's get into it. You said, okay, let's
That's
get
false. But then
Hey,
again,
it's just-
I am not. I'm not even surprised that you misunderstood. I mean, this
You
is
did the
just
same
a
thing to
compliment.
me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about that, but I guess listen, Declan, we will eventually do it. It's going to be smooth. It's not going to be like adversarial. It is not going to be problematic for you. It's going to be in goodwill, and I'm sure you will be delighted to
I have a question.
exhibit your position. Yes, go ahead.
Simple question. Last time we were discussing climate change, you got extraordinarily angry. Why? I've never seen you this angry.
Well, that's how I roll. Perhaps I don't know, man. What do you?
No, I just thought maybe there's some special reason for it.
Nah.
So I was inside Speedway, right? And then I heard Tasteless say that he's not going to do it right now. It started busting out like.
Yeah, I did not expect that. So
You're so defensive
He
right
was
now.
listening
That
to me,
we
he was
couldn't go
building this
through
thing
it.
up like it was supposed to be,
I want you
we're
to
getting
be
down to the
honest,
nitty-gritty.
not
Right
defensive.
now, we're going to do this right now. And then he goes, we're not doing it right now.
Yeah. So I don't want you to get defensive, Declan. This is what I'm trying to tell you. And you're so defensive right now that if I ask you whatever,
Being defensive?
you're going to stop.
This is
Listen.
me defensive?
This is what would happen, right? If I were to ask you one simple thing right now, your brain would go into 5 different fucking directions and say, what is he asking? Where is he going? Or what am I going to say? This is problematic because you're not concentrating on, one, being honest about what you really think, right? Actually, communicating what your ideas are, in freedom and shit. You wouldn't do that, Declan. You would be like, whoa, where is he going with this? Okay, he's going to prove me correct. Oh, fuck, he's going to do that. That is not what I want. I don't want you to be like that. I want you to be loose. I want you to be fluid. I want you to be open. Okay, that's what I want.
Well, so you're not doing this right now, so when we do it, because you think I'm afraid now, and you want me to calm down, so I won't be as.
Yeah, I will.
I got you.
Okay, unless you want to do it, Declan. I mean, if you want to do
I
it,
would
let's
love
go
to.
ahead and.
I would love to do it right now.
Okay, so Declan, first of all, you were telling me that before you were a guy like Christian or whatever, and then you met these people and then you saw the light. Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about. What do you?
You didn't said that
I
you
don't
came
even know
into
what
this
you're saying.
community. you came into this community with a particular attitude, and then you, after all the interactions, you concluded that you were wrong, and you then became humble, and then tried or started studying everything that is related to this issue. Yes.
Well, a more accurate representation would be that I was a Christian apologist for many, many years. And I was in this community. For the most part, I was a Christian apologist until I think it was a year or two ago. I got in a conversation with Jack about the tautological nature of God's goodness. And that was one of the wrecking balls that led to my becoming agnostic.
Okay.
Yeah,
once you became agnostic,
I know you don't have to mention me either, Declan. I know I just destroyed your entire.
I don't remember you on Google Hangouts, Jovan.
Do what?
That I don't remember you on Google Hangouts. If you were
No,
on
I came in late.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah, this
Declan,
is
so
on
you
Google Hangouts before
you
we
became
ever did this.
agnostic.
Yes.
So you became agnostic, and then what happened? I mean, what happened?
I became agnostic, and I became agnostic.
Okay.
I pretty much did the same studying on philosophical issues as I did when I was a Christian apologist. So, as far as like my by myself engaging, I really didn't do much of anything. I listened to debates and then gradually learned some stuff as I engaged more and more with the community from an agnostic perspective.
Agnostic perspective. Okay. Okay. In once you, I'm sorry. Once you took a look at this, fields of study and shit, what were your conclusions?
My conclusion was that rejecting the Christian worldview left me in a place in which I was not only agnostic about the proposition as to whether God existed or not, but also my positions on epistemology as well as other issues.
Okay. And you started studying this shit in philosophy and all these positions, and you say, like you said, arguments and counter
Metaphysics was the word I was
arguments and
looking for.
objections.
Metaphysics also.
Okay. So what happened after that? After you became like really familiar with this field of knowledge, what did you conclude about?
I just concluded that in virtue of the fact that I had been Christian for 32 years, like I said, that I was not only agnostic about the existence of God, but about a lot of issues in metaphysics and I don't know what else to tell you.
Okay, so you conclude, you saw that shit and you said, oh, I'm doubtful of. What are the implications of all this knowledge, Declan, for you?
I don't know. That's a pretty vague question. I mean,
What do you mean?
as far as the way that I interact day to day, not really much of anything. I don't feel terribly bad about normal shit that everyone does anymore. I don't beat myself up. I sure as fuck don't go to bed worrying about whether an infinite God hates me anymore. I don't think about that stuff. So I don't know if that's what you're looking
I see. So let me ask you something, Declan. You are familiar because you read about all this shit, and you're familiar with all the philosophical positions and arguments and what?
No, I don't know all the philosophical positions. As a matter of fact, one of my downfalls is that it's difficult for me to remember a lot of philosophical positions.
Okay.
Declan, would an accurate representation of what happened be that you got cucked into agnosticism?
Oh, that was definitely it. Yeah, Jovan hit the mark there.
Okay, that's good. That's fine.
You're
So
welcome. You're
you
welcome,
were
Tasteless. We're done now. We're done.
okay. So Declan, you're basically saying that once you read about all of these issues and the philosophies that you have read or the philosophical positions that you're aware of it, made you conclude that you're agnostic as to what?
No, I told you it was my interaction with Jack that was the major keynote.
Yeah. But once you did that and you became agnostic as to God, right, as the religion, you said that you became more familiar with other philosophical positions.
I mean, no more than what I would have as a Christian apologist, but I mean, I just learned randomly.
Okay. Then I don't understand.
You're really trying to
your
lead
claim.
me somewhere. This is really cringe. Like I could tell you're like trying so hard.
Declan,
You
you said no. This is the problem. You're doing exactly what I told I said you were going to do. So initially you said, well, tasteless. When I was a Christian, you were using yourself as an example of a person who came with a particular perspective, and then once presented with all this shit and meeting people and shit, you became really open to this, philosophical stances, and then you became more familiar with them, and then you grew up as a result of that. That's what you were saying. You were using yourself as a fucking example for it.
Look, Jovan even like jokingly highlighted it, tasteless. He said that
maybe I'm wrong, right?
Look,
you didn't say that, Declan.
Cucked is obviously hyperbolic, but he's being really clear. Jack brought up philosophical issues with his theism, and he rejected it because it was untenable. He said, "Look, here's
what happened as a result of that." He said nothing. I just became agnostic.
A and B, and then what Declan said was, "Yeah, I can't resolve that. I guess I got to rethink this," and then couldn't come up with the conclusion that either God does exist or doesn't exist. So he's an agnostic. What's
but nobody's talking about that.
Yes, that's exactly.
But nobody's talking about that. No. This is a problem. Nobody's asking about God. He was using himself as an example.
About it. What are you talking?
Listen, my friend, told me that's a given. That's a given. You became agnostic when you met some people here. That's a given. Nobody gives a shit about that. I don't give a fuck about your belief about God. No, I told you, because that's the way you phrased it. Maybe I'm incorrect. Okay, so now you're telling me that your philosophical knowledge came before engaging with these people. You already knew about all these positions as a result of you being an apologist.
I said the exact opposite.
Tasteless has been doing this for like 3 hours now.
What?
I said the exact opposite.
Okay,
what I said
said?
was that I learned about some philosophical positions just naturally as a Christian apologist, right? And then I even said that even after I became an agnostic, my knowledge of philosophical positions didn't really go up. I did the same exact thing. I just grew naturally.
Exactly. That is irrelevant, you stupid fuck.
You see,
you think that is irrelevant. You're now portraying, listen, you're changing positions based on the notion that you think I am going to pin you to one of them. And once you see interest in me wanting to know about it, no, that is not what happened. What happened was that, motherfucker, you're being so unconstructive. It is irrelevant how you got your fucking information. It is irrelevant that you were a fucking Christian and you changed. It is irrelevant. What I'm asking, Declan, and listen to the question, don't fucking assume. Declan, once you have all this information and your own beliefs, your particular beliefs, right? You know all this philosophy and all this shit. You say, no, but I don't know any philosophy. No, I understand, relax. Nobody's saying that you know the whole thing. But I'm sure that you have like a body of knowledge when it comes to this issue, right?
Sure.
Now, I'm saying, Declan, as a result of you holding all this shit, what is your conclusion about that when it comes to philosophy, when it comes to philosophical stances?
Multiple times which was just
nobody's asking about God.
Which was just to say that I not only became agnostic about God's existence, but I became agnostic about a lot of issues with regard to epistemology and metaphysics, right?
Oh, shit.
So in other words, I held positions in epistemology and metaphysics as a Christian, and when I became agnostic, I became agnostic not only about the existence of God, but those positions as well.
These positions as well. Okay. What you are agnostic about is that you cannot really know anything. Is that what?
I'm leaning more and more towards a form of that, but not that exactly, because that would be
what?
Ridiculous. For me to say I don't know anything would be ridiculous, because that would include that proposition, which I think I know.
I see. I understand. So let me ask you something. Like, what do you think philosophy?
I think philosophy is the love of wisdom. I think that's the definition. I think colloquially, though, the way that it's thrown around here, I think it encompasses a body of knowledge, including philosophical positions, as well as the ability to be able to argue in a proper fashion. I think that's like if there was a colloquial use of it, I think that would be colloquial understanding. But there is an actual like.
I'm not asking colloquial understanding. I'm asking about your understanding.
There is an academic. Those are both my understandings. I think they're a little bit of both.
Listen, Declan, I know that you want to appeal like for some sort of fucking, steady ground for you to claim that, this is what it says. No. I'm asking, what do you think? Well, listen,
I told you.
What do you think, Declan? Declan,
I told you I think it's a little bit of both of them.
Well, anything that academic says, that's what philosophy is. The colloquial is debating and shit. That is not what philosophy is.
No, I think it's a little bit of both of those definitions that I gave.
Well, can you give me a good understanding of what philosophy is to you, please?
Yeah, sure. The love of wisdom and the ability.
What's that mean? Level of wisdom. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Of wisdom.
Okay, the love of wisdom. Okay, yeah, that is the meaning of the etymology. I know that you're searching now. So let me ask you something, Declan. Declan, when you say wisdom,
this is kind of a new tactic for Tasteless. He accuses people of Googling things all of a sudden.
Declan, go ahead, Declan.
Tasteless has never Googled
what do you mean by
conversation?
What do I mean by what, Tasteless?
Wisdom.
I think it's a deeper set of knowledge that encompasses a wide range of things, including possibly and up to human behavior, what to do in certain situations given a certain set of skills and knowledge that you have.
That is provided by philosophy,
and it can range all the way up to things like a knowledge of positions and metaphysics and epistemology. It's a very wide-ranging.
Holy shit!
Definition.
So, do you think that thing you said about behavior and all this shit is covered by?
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yeah, what's the discipline that covers that?
Behaviorism.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff in behaviorism, and there's a lot of stuff also.
What about behaviorism? What about behaviorism? I want to know.
Hold on, I'll answer. So there's also a lot of implications when you go into like the study of like morality in philosophy. About human behavior, things that you should or should not do based upon certain standards. I think there's implications for human behavior there.
Oh, okay. So philosophy tells people how to become more wise?
I don't think it tells people how to become more wise. I think it describes a little bit of what wisdom is.
But was it what?
I think it sort of describes and shows what wisdom is by implication.
Okay. So, basically your understanding is, philosophy is just a deeper level of wisdom that deals with, I don't know what, behavior of people, knowing how to behave, covering issues from, the telephone to the skies and air and shit.
Did you listen?
What the fuck, man?
I'm sorry, Declan, you were fucking vague there. I mean, really vague. And I didn't understand.
Even
okay, maybe Scarlett. Maybe Scarlett can. Scarlett, could you explain what Declan said, please? Man?
Even if
no. Scarlett, can you repeat what fucking? Or maybe your understanding about what Declan said.
Tasteless, you're over.
Even if Tasteless was vague, you distorted the hell out of what he says into something.
Well, maybe you can. Okay, can you repeat what he said, please? Maybe you can explain it to me, Polaterality. What did he say?
Well, you said it's some level of wisdom, depth, or whatever, and he never said anything of the sort.
Just tell me what was his response.
I can't remember it all. I remember you distorting.
Okay, I don't remember it all, but you understood it, right? Can you rephrase it some way?
No, he said a lot. I can't remember everything.
Rephrase it. I mean, just give me the gist of it. Paula, give me the gist of it.
He said that philosophy is the love of wisdom. It doesn't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily give you wisdom. It describes wisdom. And he mentioned a few other things.
Yeah, it describes what.
Oh, okay, but can you give me
being a general, please?
Okay, no, because I know that Declan is very articulated, and I am sure that many of you guys understood what he said.
He's
if I may, Tasteless, what is philosophy is actually not a straightforward. There's not.
Danny, don't fucking get in this issue. This isn't about that. I am trying to explore Declan's worldview. This isn't about that. No. Yeah, thank you, Danny. I am not asking that because.
No, I mean, I'm ready to re-engage.
Yeah,
you are. I'm just waiting for you to get over the.
Okay, Declan. So in a succinct manner, what is philosophy, dude?
Yeah, I said it before.
According to you.
Yeah, I said it before. I think it's a little bit of both the colloquial as well as the academic definition, right? Which is the love of wisdom. And also, I think in circles like this, it can be best defined as the way to properly reason, the way to properly debate, and it also has something to do with understanding and exercising one's knowledge of philosophical positions.
Okay, Declan. So I can notice that you inserted there the proper way to do things. So
I said that.
Okay, according to you, you're saying that philosophy in these circles, it provides the proper way of reasoning, the proper way of
proper way to reason.
No. You said the proper way. Yes or no?
Yeah, that's what I said. The study of the proper way to reason.
Okay. So is it the study of the proper way? Is it the proper way? Is it what?
Study of the proper way.
Okay, so there is no proper way, right?
No, I didn't say that. I don't think that's implicated at all in what I said.
Okay, so it is a proper way.
As a matter of fact, the opposite seems to be implied.
Right.
Okay, so Declan, let me ask you something. So, you see philosophy as this field of study, right? Mm-hmm. That is going to provide the proper way of reasoning. Yes. It provides a level of wisdom and understanding. Yes.
That helps you understand what wisdom
is, I think. Result in behavior. I'm sorry, what?
It helps you understand what wisdom is, in my opinion. Like,
it helps you understand.
If philosophy did anything, in my opinion, it would be to help one understand exactly what wisdom is, right?
Okay.
So, for example,
understand what?
Let me expound on this because I think this is important.
Sure.
For example, the study of like formal logics and shit like that, I think that has something to do with teaching someone what wisdom is, which is properly thinking. That's the base fundamental of wisdom, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that is philosophy. Okay, that's within philosophy, yes?
Yeah, I think philosophy can be described as that. And
okay. So let me ask you something, Declan. If a person, let's say, thinks in a different way than the proper way proposed by philosophy, do you think that person is?
You cut out there. Do I think that person
is wrong?
I think it depends on the context.
What do you mean?
Well, in philosophy is really open-ended, right? So what you'll find is not necessarily that there's any one way for one position, but rather many ways to think about specific positions. Like in metaphysics, right? There are many positions of metaphysics, and what you'll find in philosophy are the arguments for and against both. So it's not like philosophy saying, hey, by the way, transcendental idealism is the exact proper way, but rather here are the arguments for both, and here are the arguments for and against. Assess.
Okay. Do you think there's a consensus in philosophy, Declan?
I think it would depend on what you mean by consensus.
Well, like you're saying, you have these different fields of study that they study different aspects of.
I don't think that all philosophers agree on one thing. No.
Okay, so there is no consensus, and there are several current. Okay, not currents, but fields and branches, right?
Yep.
Of different ways of thinking. Do you agree?
Yes.
Like different, like different leanings to, think and assess information that you're trying to make sense out of the world. Yes. Okay. So given that, philosophy encompasses very different areas, right, of study.
There are different areas of study.
And different assumptions, if you will, right? People, and there are many philosophers, contemplators of reality, people who want to understand reality as such, and they came up with particular models of interpretation, right? They say, well, this means this means that. This is a way for you to make sense out of life. This is an argument as to why I think I'm correct, and this is why I think this is true. Yes?
Yes.
There are many different positions, right?
Yes.
People hold different positions, and according to their leaning, they can lean more towards particular branches. Now,
yes.
My question to you, Declan, is if someone comes, right, externally and provides a different model, is that person wrong in doing so?
It would depend on the context, right?
No. Is that person wrong in doing so?
Well, that's what I'm saying is like to ask, for example, like let's take metaphysics or epistemology, right? Let's take metaphysics. Let's say someone came up with like an odd sort of hybrid between like Platonism and, I don't know, whatever other, fucking position. It's the only way that you would know if they were wrong is if you had knowledge of, I guess, the entire universe and everything encompassed within it, right? So it's not a matter of me saying, would they be wrong? It would be a matter of me saying, how well are the arguments? Do the arguments stand up for this position?
Okay, so you would assess the position by itself, and you will see whether it is compelling. I would assess
it along with the other metaphysical theory.
Okay. So in order for you to judge whether a fucking perspective has grounds or not, you would use your previous or the field of study of philosophy. You would compare that against what you know,
other
or the different
perspectives as well as other positions as well as what I know. Yeah.
Okay, so you would use, let's say, what you know as a standard for you to judge whether something is actually correct or not.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Declan. Now, let me ask you something, Declan. Do you think that philosophers were aware of each other's findings and works and studies and propositions?
I certainly don't think all of them are aware of everyone's.
How do you think the entire field of philosophy? Okay,
but I think that some are aware of other positions.
But how do you think? How do you think, Declan, the philosophy as we know it, I mean, all these currents, all these positions came to be in the first place?
I think it's multifaceted. I think you'll find people starting off in armchair positions that are just deep thinkers, and I think they work themselves up into academia. And I think that it's the opposite as well. I think that you have people in academia who started off not having to be in an armchair, who submitted their ideas and they were assessed by peer-reviewed papers. I think it goes both ways.
No, justifying here.
I'm talking about the Aristotle, Socrates.
Hold on, Seth. I want to hear what he's saying. Hold on, Seth.
Yeah, I'm talking about the initial founders of this.
I think even back then it would depend on the country that you're talking about. I think that it's true equally for both, right? Unless you had a country somewhere that didn't have a form of academia.
So let me understand well your position. I don't want to strawman you. So you're saying that these people who came up with these philosophical positions had an academic ground that gave like the basis for them to be able to form this philosophical.
Some did. And I would think that as early as you go on, I think that most didn't. Right? I just think that it spans. Well, I think that
sophists were?
Right.
I'm sorry, what?
Do you know who the sophists were?
No. That is immaterial to this conversation. Now, Declan, let me ask you something.
Exactly material to the conversation.
Do you think that there were people, Declan, who didn't have these qualities you speak of, and then they came up with a particular view of world?
Quality.
Declan, can I explain to him why it's pertinent?
Academic background and all this validation and credentials in order for them to do this.
Seth wants to make a point real quick, and then I'll
answer. Go ahead, Seth. Go ahead.
So as it comes to like the founders of Western philosophy, right? Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. You acted like they weren't academics, right? At least one of them were, right? The other two, by the way, argued against the sophists and were trained not really necessarily classically, but there was like a loose academic field going on called, it wasn't called sophistry, but what the Socrates called the sophists, right? Who they were.
So let me ask you something. If that was the case,
understood and studied their arguments.
Of course. If that is the case, let me ask you something then. Okay, if they actually, in order for them to, talk about this shit, they need to know what, the grounds of it is. And why is it that their propositions are so different and vast? I mean, totally different.
It wasn't developed yet, right? Like, if you look throughout history, so it is true that there are a lot of philosophical positions that have been around for fucking, I guess, thousands of years or whatever. But you'll find that, like, the majority on some positions change from culture to culture, right? Like, if you go to India, for example, some Hindu regions, I guarantee their views on metaphysics are going to be a lot different than in Western culture, even in academia.
Okay, I understand. Okay, so you're basically saying, well, unless you have like some preparation and some academic background, then you're not able to.
No, not at all. I said the exact opposite.
That is not what you're saying. Oh, you're saying basically that. Okay, what is it you're saying? Because just talk about peer review.
No, what I said was that with regard to philosophy, there are people in both arenas who have contributed. When you asked me how it came to be, right? Like, there are great people who are armchair people who weren't necessarily trained and didn't get a chance to be accomplished in academia who have contributed to it, right? If you look at the community itself, the philosophical community, as far as I understand, and as far as I see in my own perception, contribute just in virtue of the fact that they are interested in it and that they are arguing for
interested in what?
They're thinking about it in philosophy.
But you're saying that, philosophy is the wisdom and the level of wisdom and the proper way of reasoning. Yeah. Okay.
It's the study of the proper way of reasoning.
The study of the proper way of reasoning. Okay. The proper way of reasoning. Okay. That's your position. I respect that. Now, Declan, do you think there's a possibility that, the source of knowledge is life contemplation? What do you think? What do you think about this, Declan? About a person being able to contemplate life, understand, the elements being presented, the phenomenons happenings, and then trying to give some sort of, understand some sort of reasons as to why what he's perceiving is come to place. And then this is like building up and say, oh, this model is good, right? I mean, this model allows me to understand and explain reality, right? I mean, and all these models were building up as a result of all this gathered knowledge in ways about, models of interpretation of reality.
I think that it's double-edged.
To be, right?
I think it's double-edged. I think that, again, I think there are both people, including those people on the sides of philosophy, that contribute, but the difference is when you enter, I was talking about this today, the difference is when you enter the arena of debating, okay? So it might be sufficient for someone like that to exist to be able to contemplate these things, and they might even be able to properly form a model that makes sense and that they could argue for. But when you enter into the arena of debating, that's not sufficient enough. Okay?
I understand. So, Declan, do you think there are definitions that need to be understood and properly repeated, for people to know? If people, if you want to debate, okay, but like this, Declan, let's say, for instance, let's talk about the noumena, right? So the noumena has different interpretations. Do you agree? Like many philosophers interpret the noumena onto their into their own models, right? And they explain it.
As far as I know, but I'm not too familiar with that concept. I've not been interested in studying it yet.
Okay, but I can tell you that, many philosophers have different interpretations and explanations about what the noumena is, what is the entailment of the noumena, what is the implications of the noumena. All this shit is, just interpretation, right? So, do you think, Declan, it might be the case that all these philosophical positions are just perspectives? We can choose about, we can hold about life, all these models of interpretation of reality, this mapping that will allow us to make sense, or at least to make sense through this lens, through this mapping, that the things we're observing will have a meaning, and that this meaning has an overall meaning by itself.
I would be in grave error if I didn't think that.
Okay.
One of the reasons why philosophy is pursued is to answer these questions and to properly to attempt to properly perceive the world. I would be an idiot if I didn't.
Okay. So basically, there is no like proper way, right, of reasoning, but there are several ways in which you could do that.
That I disagree with.
Oh shit! Go ahead.
I think there definitely are proper ways of reasoning, i.e., just a good start are the laws of logic, right? I think there is a proper way of reasoning, and I think that if
but do you think that laws of logic are?
I think hold on. I think that if it is true.
Sure.
If it is true, for example, right, that solipsism is not true and there's an objective world, I think there might even be a proper objective view of metaphysics and epistemology, right? But I don't have access to that knowledge, right? And these are all theories. So, someone could or could not be wrong, and this is why we weigh the evidence and we weigh the argumentation.
Of course, but let me ask you something. Like you said, basically you were making it sound, maybe I'm wrong, that the laws of logic were proposed by philosophy somehow, in that in order for you to properly reason, you must know about the laws of logic. Otherwise, you cannot reason well. Is that what you were saying?
Okay. Let me explain what I mean by that, because I think it's important.
Sure.
Laws of logic are it's not. So I have to be careful here. It's very important that you do know them, in my opinion, right? And it's not that people don't sometimes violate them in the sense of like on paper. But the laws of logic, for the most part, are assumed in the sense that they are a way to describe how the world works, right? Like
exactly.
ASA, law of non-contradiction, excluded middle, etc., etc.
It is a way to describe. That's right. But this is the way it works. This is the way the world works, right? Would you do agree with that? It is not necessary to know the laws of logic in order for you to recognize the laws of logic.
Could you repeat that last statement?
Describe reality.
Yeah. So like to say, for instance, even if you don't know the laws of logic, you engage with the laws of logic in the way, cause and effect relationships are built
by definition.
Of course. So this will be, or this would mean that even if you didn't know about this description that you're talking about, because it is a description, you would still be held to these rules, right? You couldn't escape them. It is just the way the world works. Yes.
I sense equivocation.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry.
Just a second ago, he said that you don't have to know the laws of logic to recognize them. That can't be true.
Well, holy fucking shit, man. So where do you think they came from, Seth? If that is not true, what I'm saying?
It's a description.
How do you think they came to?
It is literally.
Let's answer this question. Seth, how did the laws of logic, or the description of the laws of logic, came to be? Go ahead.
I don't understand. I don't think you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's a malformed question.
No. You were saying, okay, what I said was that even if we don't know about the laws of logic, we would be able to recognize the laws of logic and say, well, that is not possible. Okay, that is not true.
So you abide by them whether or not you're aware of them, that's for sure.
Okay.
Recognizing entails awareness.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, let me explain, Tasteless.
So then how? No. How? Seth, no, let me ask Seth. Let me ask Seth.
No.
How did the laws of logic came to be? The description of the laws of logic. How did they came to be, Seth?
This is very important, Tasteless. Right. So for you to even be able to assess, what the laws of logic are, they must be in action, right?
Of course.
If A doesn't equal A, there's no referent. There's nothing to cognize on.
So what?
So the point there is that you don't have to be aware. Like, for example,
you don't have to.
I wasn't aware
That's
of
what
the
I said.
laws. I wasn't aware of the laws of logic until about my first or second year into Christian theism, or not into Christian theism, but Christian apologetics. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't identifying A. It doesn't mean that A wasn't A. It doesn't mean that things were either true or false without a middle, right?
Of course.
Okay, so for you to ask where they...
I was really clear, right? I said that people would abide the logic whether or not they recognize them. But to recognize them, you must be aware of them.
That's right.
When you ask where do the laws of logic come from, it's a malformed question because they're not like these ontological laws that are separate from the universe acting upon the universe. Like you said, they're just descriptions of how the universe operates.
Exactly. So if you are able to recognize, that means, Seth, that you are observing that some rule said, no. Yes, it does. And let me tell you why. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So,
go ahead, hurry up.
But listen, man, you fucked up. That's fine. I'm not interested in you. I'm interested in Declan now.
Really, Tasteless, you're not
I'm not going to get sidetracked.
People abide by the laws of logic, whether or not they recognize them, right? You can't.
Of course, that's exactly what I said. I'm glad we agree.
Right.
Now, Declan, this is what you said then. So, said, get the fuck out of the way, dude. Get the fuck out of the way.
Tasteless, I got to take the dog out real quick. So if you want to talk to Seth for a minute, that's fine.
We're differing on the definition of recognize, right? You seem to think recognize means being abiding them or effect on you as a recognition, but that's just not true. Recognizing is becoming aware again of something in reality, right? If I can't recognize my sister if I've never met her and I'm not aware of her, right? Just like I wouldn't recognize the laws of logic unless I was aware of them. I would still abide them. You can't help but abide the laws of logic. They're just how we think and how the world operates.
Well, since you made me, I'm going to address this petty, objection is stupid, claim that Seth just made. So, in order for you, for instance, to know that there's such a thing as a rule or law acting upon, you must necessarily recognize that something is up. Something that you went up, previously happened again. Now listen. We are talking about the rule and the law being recognized over and over again, and this is like a pattern that you recognize, say, oh man, this is a law. This is something that applies all across the board. This is you recognizing that something is acting in every single instance, so therefore it must be a law. That's how laws of logic were created. As a result of us, acknowledging this pattern of, in this particular instance, this perspective of, the identity of things, things not changing identity, things in either being the case or not. These things are just consistent, and this is why, as a result of us recognizing this pattern, we were able to say, well, this is a law. Now, Declan, let's go back to you. So you're saying, Declan, you're acknowledging that you don't need to know about philosophy, right? Because these laws of logic apply whether you know them or not, because this is just something that is the way the world works. So it is not necessary for you to learn philosophy in order for you to know how to proper reason. Is that a point that we can agree on or not?
You didn't actually contradict anything that I said, Tasteless.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, Sid. So Declan, can you agree with this?
Declan made it really clear that he's taking the dog out for a second.
Oh fuck, man! So why didn't you stop?
What up, Tasteless?
What, from running away from Seth?
Hey, Seth, you still think that animals don't have minds, right? They don't make inferences and such?
Some do.
Oh, well, what about dogs? Do you think dogs can make inferences?
Maybe. Dogs are kind of a special case. Dogs are real special in the animal.
So there was a experiment done. There was actually, I don't know, well, there's actually a dog, I forget the name of the dog, but he memorized over 1,000 different names of stuffed animals. And if you say one of the names,
right?
Right. Now, the funny thing was they actually put a doll that was not named amongst the bunch, right? And asked him to give a couple dolls' name and then gave him a new name that he never heard before. The dog went back there and was a little confused of what to do because he never heard the name before. And he came back and they said the name to him one more time.